try to put yourself in their shoes. Ask certain questions. You could even flat out ask, I know you're yelling at me right now, but I just want to ask, is there something that's, causing you to yell at me or lash out at me? Because just a moment ago, we were having a civilized conversation. Now, if you were to respond back with anger, frustration, raising your voice, even making a snark remark, just to make yourself feel better. Like, you know how you can you have those jabs, or you can stab somebody with your words because it's like, this is true. And it'll make you feel like, you know what? I win.
Like, I had the last laugh.
I had the last laugh sort of thing, right? But you got to realize when you do that, you may have won the argument, you may have won that fight, but in the end, you're kind of losing the war with that person. The whole point of fights or arguments is not always winning. It's connection. Because the person that you're talking to isn't always the person you're dealing with. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Veggie Bob Vlogs podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy, and this is my lovely wife, Bianca. Bianca, say hi to the camera.
Hello.
All right, so today we're going to continue with our conversation of last week, where it's like talking to people and how our words have a ripple effect to others, right? Continuing with that with the conversations we have. There is something that I want to say that we need to have while we're having conversations with people. And I do this with you, and I'm sure you do this with like your friends and your coworkers. And it's that, one, your words do have a ripple effect, but two, when you are talking to people, there are times where we could have disagreements, right? And in those disagreements, sometimes they could turn into arguments. And in those arguments, sometimes they could turn into fights, right? Depending on just how everybody's emotions are, what people are going through. But one of the things you have to keep in the back of your head, or even at the forefront of your mind, is when we communicate to people, always know that the fact that we're communicating with someone, the reason behind that is because we want to connect with them. So when we're in arguments or fights or anything like that, the first thing that usually comes to mind, or the goal, is I need to win this argument because I believe I'm right. Do you agree with me? Like, that's the feeling we have. We're like, no, I'm right. So we'll say things oftentimes that sometimes we don't even mean, even though we may be right? But again, always keep in the forefront of your mind is, dude, the reason why you're even talking to this person and why you even got into an argument with this person is because at the beginning of it, the whole point of conversation is to connect with people. So what I'm trying to say is, the whole point of fights or arguments is not always winning. It's connection. Because the person that you're talking to isn't always the person you're dealing with. And what I mean by that is, sometimes there is something behind the person's words that's causing them to say those words. For example, so I have this story. This is back when I was a front desk person over at Planet Fitness. And it was me, and this was during the evening shift. It was me, the other MSR, and I believe it was one more person that we were training. And the day was going smoothly until maybe around 6 o'clock, 6:30. It started to get busy. And we were getting a flood of people from a different city who were coming to our club. So this was the Burlington Club, right? So we were having people come in from Mississauga and Brampton. And we're like, what the heck is going on? Where are all these people coming from, right? We weren't told that the other clubs closed down because something happened there. So they were all coming to our clubs. So anyways, a lot of the members, they were coming in irritated and just ready to fight us. And
okay.
Yeah, because they're like, our club over there is over there. You need to let us in. But the thing is, we weren't told to let them in unless if they have a black card spa membership. So basically, it's a premium membership where you're allowed access to clubs all over the country. So US and Canada. So a lot of these members that are coming in from Brampton and Mississauga, they only have a basic membership, right? And they're just irritated that we're not allowing them to come in. But meanwhile, we weren't told by anybody, you got to allow these people in because their clubs are closed. Again, we're just getting an influx of all these people. And Burlington's more of a quiet club.
Okay.
Right? So you got to keep that in mind, where in the evening we don't have a packed club. Like, it does get busy, but we don't have a packed club. So here we are getting these members from like Brampton, Mississauga, and they're coming in, and we're denying them access because we weren't told by anybody else to let these people in. Unless if you have a premium membership. So they're coming in and they're just fighting us. Meanwhile, we don't know what's going on. We didn't know their clubs were shut down, or they weren't allowed in their clubs because they were closed. So one coworker, so I'm handling it with grace and calmness, thinking, something's going on, because one, we're getting an influx, but my other two coworkers, they're talking to them, and things are getting heated and escalated, and arguments are happening, right? And we're sending them away because we're not allowed to let them in. And so I was listening in on the one conversation my coworker was having with like a group. I think there was 5 of them. There's like five brown guys because they're from Brampton, okay. Right? And it got heated to the point where the guy was gonna like jump over the table and start fighting us, right? Until I just came in and I'm just like, whoa, what seems to be the problem? Like, and I explained calmly, it's like, listen, we can't let you in because you don't have like a premium membership. And meanwhile, I don't know for the life of me, none of them were telling us, hey, our club's closed, so we're coming here. Like, none of them said anything. They're just like, yeah, we're here because we're from Brampton. Like, they didn't even say they were from Brampton or Mississauga. We're just finding out from when they try to scan, and we're not allowed to let them in, right? So,
Wait, sorry, no, I'm just trying to get like, so when they scan, is it whatever gym like you signed up for? Like,
yeah, that is your main club. Oh, so you're not allowed to go. You can't. You're not allowed unless if you have a premium membership where it allows you to go to all the clubs.
Oh, that's weird.
I know. But anyways, going back to the story, I didn't want to get too sidetracked. I quickly de-escalated the conversation to the point where we got them to leave. Right? Mind you, they were totally upset.
Oh, yeah.
And my coworker is heated too. He's like, dude, why don't they understand they can't come in because they don't have a premium membership? And I remember saying to the guy, I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, you can't always take things at face value, like with what they're saying. Like, obviously, they're angry because we're not allowing them in, but at the same time, we didn't know there was an underlying issue. We didn't find out until like later on that evening when they said, I think our manager said, let them in. Oh. But at the time, we didn't know what was going on, right? And this is where I was explaining to my coworker, and I'm like, you have to kind of understand that the person you're talking to, there's probably a good reason why they're angry and why they're coming here. Like, you can't take things for face value when they come up to you and they start speaking to you. Again, the whole point of this conversation of us talking to them and, telling them, listen, we can't allow you in because you just don't have a premium membership. It's like there's an underlying issue that's causing them to come here. And it just so happens that we don't know. But it's our jobs, again, as the front desk people, even as a person, right, to try and understand where that other person is coming from. And what we didn't do is ask the right questions.
Yeah, but that's
The thing. A lot of because we're just getting an influx, and we're just saying, "Sorry, we can't let you in. Sorry, we can't let you in. Sorry, we can't let you in." And basically, what we're saying is, "Listen, you don't have a premium membership. We can't let you in." And then we just cut it off because again, we were kind of in panic mode. We're like, "We can't let these people in. Where the hell are all these people coming from?"
Yeah.
Right. But if we took the time to actually be a human and ask questions, even ask the right questions, things probably wouldn't have even escalated where my coworker would have gotten into a fight with these 5 other brown guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, I started telling him, I'm like, and I told him after, I'm like, you know what? We need to try and understand first that other people are going through things or something may have happened. We can't just jump to the assumption and jump to the conclusion that, hey, they're just here, they want to invade our space. You know what I mean? So going back to what I wanted to talk about today is we need to learn how, when we're having conversations or even disagreements or arguments, we need to learn how to take a step back and start asking the right questions as to why somebody is acting out the way they are. Do you agree?
Yeah, I want to also say before I forget, like, I learned too I want to say like a training at like school where it pretty much, what is it? There's a saying where it's like all behaviors have meaning.
Yes.
So in the same way with your scenario, because it's like, why are they acting like this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Again, you gotta ask those questions where you can kind of get into the deeper issue, into the deeper underlying issue of what exactly is it that's causing that person to speak to me the way they are.
Yeah, like even just taking like a little breather, to not just focus on the circumstance and just take a step back and be like, okay, like what's happening?
Yeah.
Because I could even say for work, where I used to work in like a specialized unit. So it's just with clients who are either exit seeking or who have behavioral like I don't say episodes, but pretty much where sometimes they're not able to express what they're saying in their mind just because they have like dementia, there's like something,
or they're not even able to articulate verbally whatever it is they're feeling.
So sometimes, like, especially if you're like already mentally like or physically drained, sometimes you really have to take a step back and be like, okay, what is this resident trying to tell me? Because sometimes it could be something as simple from maybe they're experiencing pain or like, and they just can't express it, so they're like yelling, or they're so tired that they just can't even express what's going on.
Yeah.
And other factors. So that's something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
To consider.
Okay, so let's just say, I won't even say that. So when you are having an argument or a disagreement, or you have somebody who's arguing with you, and you may necessarily not be arguing with them, because in your head you might think, okay, I'm right.
Okay.
Right? Again, it's asking the right questions and trying to put yourself in their shoes. I guess what I'm trying to say is the whole point of communication is to connect, correct?
Yeah.
Even when you're having a disagreement or an argument, because when you connect, you can get to the underlying issue of exactly why is it that you guys are arguing? Why is it with that person is arguing with me, or vice versa? What's causing them to argue with me, which is causing me to argue back with them, right? So it's the whole point of connection. Now, if you were to respond back with anger, frustration, raising your voice, even making a snark remark, just to make yourself feel better. Like, you know how you can kind of, you have those jabs, or you can stab somebody with your words because it's like, yeah, this is true. And it'll make you feel like, you know what? I win.
Like, I had the last laugh.
I had the last laugh sort of thing, right? But you got to realize when you do that, you may have won the argument, you may have won that fight, but in the end, you're kind of losing the war with that person. Because the next time that person comes to talk to you again, or you guys are even just in the same vicinity, or maybe you guys have the same friend group, or this just is somebody who you're always around because whether it's school, work, something like that, right? Or even a family member,
Yeah.
right? The relationship, instead of it being where it was before, the relationship has now diminished because now that person may want to speak to you less
Yeah.
because of that snark remark you made. Because again, you didn't get to the underlying issue of what was causing them to be angry or mad at you. Instead, you just stabbed them with your words, and now it's like you lost that trust, right? You lost a little bit of that rapport with them, and I'm like, in the end, do you really want to go through that? Right? Especially if it's a family member, especially if it's a friend, especially if it's a coworker who you have no choice, but they're always going to be around 5 days a week, Monday to Friday sort of thing, right? So again, if these are people who we're always going to be around or who's always going to show up into our lives, right? Just keep in the back of your head, or sorry, in the forefront of your head, that the main point of conversation is to connect. Even when conversations can turn into arguments or even flat out fights, right? So try to put yourself in their shoes. Ask certain questions. You could even flat out ask, I know you're yelling at me right now, but I just want to ask, is there something that's, causing you to yell at me or lash out at me? Because just a moment ago we were having a civilized conversation, because that can happen, right? You can even ask that type of question where you can just be very upfront, because I found I've done that a few times where I'm just having a normal conversation with somebody and all of a sudden they're offended. And I'd be like, whoa, in the back of my head I'm like, did I say something? And rather than just think that and lash back out at them, it's like, dude, why are you yelling at me? Like, I don't even know what the hell I said, right?
Yeah.
Instead of reacting, I could take a step back and ask that question where it's like, okay, 5 seconds ago, we were okay. Was there something I said that caused you to yell at me or to be angry at me? And again, say that in a calm way. Again, it's controlling our emotions and having control over that. When you do, 8-9 times out of 10, that person will respond back to you and answer you. Or they might even just stay quiet, right? And really think, oh, what do I say to this person, sort of thing, right? So again, we'll keep this one short. I think that's really just all I wanted to say is when you're having a conversation with someone, the whole purpose of conversation, even when it turns into arguments or disagreements, it is to connect, right? It is to connect, because at the end of the day, the people who we're surrounded with, those are the people, especially the ones we want in our lives, family members, friends, even coworkers, right? Those are the people we want to connect with and build these healthy relationships over time. Anything else you want to say?
No.
All right, so I guess we'll keep it at that. Until next time, we're out. Peace. Peace.